Perfect.
Pause it.
Alright.
Today, we will be covering all the safety measures and procedures when it comes to bunkering. Bunkering refers to fuel and the process of fueling. Be sure that the crew conducts a JSA tabletop discussion before carrying out any duties. Ensure that everyone knows their obligations as well as the environmental and safety hazards that will be present. After conducting a tabletop discussion, you must complete a JSA form on Helm. Helm can be accessed on the computer inside the wheelhouse. Once the form is completed, it must be printed and signed by all crew members who attended the tabletop. So, after the GSA, the crew should be well informed on the hazards associated with each task, the steps we take to prevent harm to ourselves and the environment, and the necessary equipment anytime we find ourselves in the presence of these hazards. The required personal protective equipment for this task shall include protective eyewear to prevent the event of fuel splashing into the eyes, which can cause ulceration of the cornea, long sleeve clothing to protect fuel contacting skin. Fuel on the skin may cause irritation and burning. Gloves to prevent damage to the hand and the possibility of fuel coming into contact with your bare hands. Steel toes. They must always be worn no matter the circumstances. Personal flotation device. They must be worn when within a close proximity to the mooring lines. Your catamarans are equipped with two tanks that hold 365 gallons each. It is company policy that tanks are not to be topped off to prevent accidental spillage. 90% of any tank's capacity is recommended. With that being said, it is ideal to keep each tank from exceeding 330 gallons on each side, and you want to schedule fueling whenever a tank reaches approximately 150 gallons. First step is to sound the tank, and to do that, you'll need a meter stick and a rag. The meter stick can be found in the switchboard room. Once grabbed, head to the tanks. The tanks can be found in the cabin's midship on both port and starboard sides. To access it, pull the handle upward and turn it counterclockwise to lift. Once lifted, place the hatch to the side so it isn't a trip hazard in the aisle. When entering the void space, carefully place your foot on the ladder while holding onto the nearby pole, and once you descend further, place your hands on the floor to maintain balance. You always want to have 3 contact points when dealing with ladders to prevent accidents. Upon entering the void space, safely place your feet on the side rails. This will help you get in a safer position to sound the tanks. Once properly positioned, place a rag around the cap. Once the rag is in position, you want to screw the cap counterclockwise to open it. Now grab the meter stick by the rope attached to it and slowly feed it down the tank until it hits the bottom. Once you hear the sound of the meter stick hitting the bottom, slowly pull up the meter stick. Place the end of the meter stick on the rag and reseal the tank. The meter stick will have a darker hue on the tip of the stick where it is damp. This signifies the fuel tank levels. Place your finger where the darker hue ends and flip the meter stick over to get a reading. Once you have the readings, report it to the captain and wipe the diesel off the meter stick. Repeat these steps on the other tank. Exit the void space and reseal the hatch. Turn it clockwise and push down. With both tanks sounded, the captain can determine how much fuel needs to be taken on. They can now make a call to Stone Fuel Gretna using the boat's phone. The phone number to Stone Fuel is saved in the boat's contacts. Call the number and see if they have a spot available. The conversation should go something like this. Hello, this is the RTA-1 and I'm calling to see if they have a spot available. Yeah, sure. Come on up and catch the Madison Stone. So be sure to give your vessel name, and in return they will either give you a vessel name or barge number to fuel on. After calling Stone Gretna to confirm a spot, the captain must inform vessel traffic of your intentions. Now it's clear to head up to Stone, and it's time to prepare for the fueling process. First, gather 2 bumpers to place on your port bow and port quarter to protect the boat from possible damage. The port bow can use a larger bumper since it's likely to be the first contact point. Have a fellow hand assist with deploying the bumper on the bow. Tie it off on the deck first and then safely hoist it down. The stern can use a lighter bumper. You can safely measure to where it's on the port quarters guardrail. This will be the first contact point on the stern since it protrudes. So with the bumper being placed on the guardrail, it will prevent metal-to-metal contact. Now grab the necessary tools for fueling to help protect us from spills. Starting with the oil pads that are located in the storage locker on the stern, these pads only absorb oil and petroleum-based products. Grab the pipe fitting and meter stick from the switchboard room. Make your way to the bow with these items and be sure to grab a nearby fire extinguisher. Set them aside so that they're readily available, but not in a way to become a tripping hazard. Take some of the oil pads and place them neatly around the vents in the containment pan. In the event that fuel may come out of the vents, these pads will help with containment. Now remove the ring buoy in front of the containment pan so that you can install the plug to the pan. The plug can be found attached to a galvanized wire. Once it's snug, you can put an oil pad right underneath the plug. At this time, we should be approaching stone. The captain should be making a wide approach as it is the safest option. The deckhand should be at the mooring lines, calling the captain in. Once the line is caught, tie a 3-figure 8 so the captain can adjust the boat to line up with the bitts. Safely place your hands further down the line while the boat falls back to avoid pinching fingers. Slightly open the palm of your hands so that you can feed out the line. Always communicate with the captain. Never fully secure the line until the captain gives the orders. Once the captain gives the order to tie the boat, go ahead and secure the vessel with half hitches. The captain can now shove into the bow line so that the person on the stern may step off the boat and put the mooring line around the cleat. Be sure to have on your PFD when crossing over. The tankerman will hand you paperwork that must be signed off where they put X's for your signature. You will then give them the amount of fuel you intend to take on. To determine how much fuel is needed in each tank, subtract each tank's sounded number from 330. Here's a quick example. We know each tank can be filled to 330 gallons. Subtract the number you sounded from 330. Let's say the sounding we got from the port tank is 180. 330 minus 180 would give us 150, meaning we would need 150 gallons to top off the port tank. Let's say we sounded the starboard tank for 200. Subtract 200 from 330, and that would give you 130. We need 130 gallons on the starboard tank for it to be topped off. Add both numbers together to get a total number for gallons of fuel you plan to take on. We'll take on a total of 280 gallons, with 150 gallons being the first stop and 280 being the second stop. The pipes to the tanks are located on the bow. Grab the hose from the tankerman and pull enough slack to have a bend in the fuel line. Open the ears to the nozzle to release the cap. Now properly seat our pipe fitting inside the nozzle gun. Once properly seated, secure it by closing the ears. Remove the cap from the port side tank's fueling line and connect the fitting to the pipe. Once the ears are secured, tie down the ears with a rag to prevent the ears from opening. Now that the ears are reinforced, you can crack open the valve and signal the tankerman to begin sending the fuel to our tank. Make sure that 2 people are present at the fueling station, actively watching the hose. Always have your hand on the trigger in case you may need to stop fueling. If fuel is pouring out of the vents and into the containment pan, you want to immediately close the valve. The longer that valve stays open, the more likely it is to get fuel in the river. You will get a signal from the tankerman that you are good to swap to the starboard tank. When disconnecting the nozzle from the pipe, always make sure to close the valve. Now it is safe to disconnect the nozzle. Undo the rag and ears to the pipe fitting. Uncap the starboard side and transfer the nozzle over. Once transferred over, go ahead and secure it. While that is taking place, have someone sound the tank that just took in the fuel. They will report their readings to the captain so the captain can decide which tank to blow down on. Occasionally, when you sound the first tank that took on fuel, it will be lower than the desired number. That's because sometimes their line isn't primed and it pushes air. With the starboard side being secured, you can now signal to the tankerman that they may resume. You can now crack open the valve and begin taking on fuel on the starboard tank. When the starboard side is finished, the tank must be sounded and the numbers must be reported to the captain. Now the captain has fuel readings on both tanks that can determine what side to blow down on. Let's say our port reading was 310 gallons and our starboard was 330 gallons. We would take the remaining fuel that's in their line and put it on our port tank to bring us closer to 330. We would then have to switch the line back to the port tank, take on the remaining fuel, and resound the port tank. After finishing blowing down, remove our pipe fitting from their nozzle and wipe the interior with an oil pad. Stuff the oil pad inside the fitting so that it can absorb all the diesel. Place the cap back on their nozzle gun and secure it by closing the ears. Once finished, disconnect the line and assist the tankerman with removing the hose from the boat. Secure your station by recapping the pipes and put back the ring buoy. Take out the plug to the containment pan. Put back the fire extinguisher and all equipment that was taken out. The tankerman will give you a receipt and the declaration of inspection. Once you have the receipt and DOI, you can head back to the landing in Algiers Point. Once fueling is complete, you must fill out a fuel transfer form in Helm. Take pictures of the receipt and DOI, send it to Joel Casey via email or text. After you submit the pictures and fuel transfer form, file the receipt in the top drawer of the file cabinet. This wraps up this video. One thing I forgot to mention is that if there is ever a spill, we have an emergency spill kit that is located on the bow. It is equipped with booms and oil pads that help absorb fluids that go into the water. That is another video that will be available in the future.